Welcome back. The company on our radar right now is Amara Raja. The company has witnessed a healthy revenue growth and margins too have expanded by 380 basis points on a year-on-year basis. The company has recommended a final dividend of ₹3.20. We're now joined by Harshavardhana Gourineni, the Executive Director at Amara Raja Batteries, on the show now. Morning, and thanks so much for joining in. While your margins have expanded on a year-on-year basis, on a quarter-on-quarter basis, they have been under pressure. I think 13.9% versus 15.7% in Q3. Can you explain what led to the sequential margin drop and what is the outlook on margins going ahead? And break that up in terms of the lead cost, the pricing from here on.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me this morning. I think if you look at our Q4 in regards to our Q3, Q4 typically we have lower volumes heading into the new financial year, so that's pretty typical of the industry. And going forward, we've had some very good demand across all of our focus markets in the previous financial year, and we're carrying that momentum into Q1. In terms of commodity prices, they're at a reasonable level right now, and I believe that with our increased capacity utilization, we'll continue to maintain our margins.
So margins will be at about 13-14% for FY24?
I can't give such clear guidance, but if commodities remain around the same level as now, we can see similar results.
Harshavardhan, hi, good morning. Where does your in the core lead acid business, what is Amara Raja's market share? Because you said there was in the last quarter there was a little bit of let up. So on a quarter-on-quarter basis, while your revenues are down about 8%, a competitor like Exide has managed to grow their revenues by about 5% or so. So could you just explain the dynamic to us? What's happening? From a competitor standpoint as well, market shares, where do they stand and how do you see that progressing from here?
Sure, Prashant. When it comes to the Q4, the biggest differential would be in the inverter battery segment, which is highly seasonal in nature. So that is a segment that we are less represented in. But when it comes to four-wheeler aftermarket, we're at about 35% market share. Similarly, in the OE segment as well. We're very strong in the telecom segment at 60% market share, and UPS as well at about 35%. So those are market shares we're sustaining. The seasonality impact was clearly evident in Q4.
How is the demand? What's your sense? I mean, how is the demand outlook according to you strong? And if you can put some numbers to it, that will be great. I mean, what do you expect unit-wise volumes to grow in FY24 as compared to FY23?
In FY24, we expect to continue to see low double-digit growth in volumes. This is primarily led by strong demand in telecom, especially supported by the 5G rollout. Automotive production is nearly back to pre-pandemic levels, so that's been a good demand driver. We've also seen a very good offtake in our export business. So all those put together, we're expecting to remain at a growth of, a double-digit growth.
All right. Hi, Harshavardhan. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining in. You briefly mentioned exports. Could you tell us, as a percentage of your total pie, how much does exports contribute? And I believe you're looking at upping that. So where do you see that contribution headed?
Sure, Nigel. Right now, we're at about 12% of our overall revenue. We're heavily concentrated in the Indian Ocean Rim. Outside of India, we actually have market leadership positions in the automotive aftermarket in Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, and the UAE, and have very good penetration in other markets as well. We see good price realizations and good margin potential in these markets and in new geographies like the Western markets. So we're trying to get a much larger share from exports going forward. To put that in perspective, as a lead-acid battery player, we're about 2.5% of the global market right now. So we have a clear headroom for growth there, and that's what we're pursuing.
You have also announced the acquisition of 100% stake in a promoter entity company called Amara Raja Power Systems, and you will be paying a cash consideration of 133 crores. Can you tell us about the growth prospects of Amara Raja Power Systems? In FY23, it had a revenue of about 184 crores and margins of about 11%. How much do you think you will be able to expand that?
See, it's a proposed transaction right now, but going forward, it has a lot of synergies with our new energy business and the potentials we see there. So being a manufacturer of chargers and charging components, we see that it'll grow along with our new energy business at very high growth potential. To put in exact numbers would be a little difficult now, given our base is so small.
Right, Harshavardhan, you've started work on the Giga Corridor project, right? I mean, this is the lithium-ion cells. Could you give us some timelines about when this will kick off and what will this mean for the overall revenues of the company?
Sure. So, Prashant, as you said, we've laid the foundation stone for the Giga Corridor here in Telangana. We'll be looking to scale up to an ultimate capacity of about 16 gigawatt hours with an investment outlay of about 9,500 crores. Of course, this will be heavily dependent on how domestic demand picks up. And in terms of the revenue we can get back from it, with if you can take a standard current pricing, we're looking to be able to rival the lead acid business within the next 5 to 6 years.
Sorry, but would you have what would be, if you put in the 9,500 crores and say 5-6 years down the line, what would the shape of this business be like in terms of scale of opportunity? Of course, there are lots of variables, where prices will be and how technology changes, etc. But at this stage, what's the projection?
See, that 9,500 crores we're planning to outlay over maybe 10 years. But if you say the next 5 to 6 years, I think with consistent increase in demand, I think it would be realistic to see another billion-dollar business.
Okay, all right. Harshavardhan, a couple of more questions. There'll be technology that will be involved as well, right? To go ahead with this transition that you're talking about. Are you tying up with any technology partners? Because that's a risk, right? It takes a few years, and by that time, hopefully the technology doesn't go obsolete. So I wanted your comment on that.
That's a very good point, Nigel. We have a bimodal approach that we're taking to the development of technology. One is, of course, building our internal competency, which will take its own time. And we're also actively searching for technology partners at various levels of cooperation to help us fast track this. As you said, the change in technology is much more rapid when it comes to lithium ion. We're aware of that. And the way we're also sequencing our investments is to first start with the customer qualification plan, where we have room to work with more chemistries, and also have a scope to fine-tune our manufacturing process before we take up the larger parts of the investment.
Harshavardhan, just one last point. When you say the Giga Corridor, that is basically just the lithium-ion manufacturing facility, right? That's what you refer to.
Yes, sir. So basically, the Amara Giga Corridor here in Telangana will ultimately house about 16 gigawatt hours of cell manufacturing and up to 5 gigawatt hours of pack assembly. That's what it consists of.
All right, fair enough. We'll leave it there, Harshavardhan. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope you come back soon again as we continue to track the progress here. But thank you very much for answering all those questions patiently. So given the current timelines and the progress on the lithium-ion manufacturing facility, Amara Raja telling us that the total business of Amara Raja could double in the next 5 to 6 years based on the investments they're making in this particular facility. The foundation stone has been laid, and this is a long drawn-out project which they are embarking on. They're also looking for a technology partner for that business. Well, 625 on Amara Raja, stocks down about 1.5% or so.